Mic check.
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 We propose
A demand.
a
full-time. Meaningful. Ecologically sustainable.
employment
With the living wage. With your preference on. Public works. To rebuild American infrastructure.
Can we get a temperature check on that?
Any serious blocks or amendment? No blocks.
Can I make a point? Where's Steckers?
Yeah, Jasmine.
Am I the only one on it?
Yeah, Jasmine.
In St. Petersburg, there is a petition going around to reopen that project that was started in the Great Depression as a public works project to improve roads, environment, and all that fun stuff. If you would like, see me, give me your email, and I'll forward the information to you. Since this has already started. Mic check. We are taking stack. On amendments. Or serious dissent. So we can move forward.
Anyone? No.
So it seems like we had a lot of support. And no one wanted to get on for dissent. Can we come to consensus? Hey, good job, y'all.
Next proposal.
Who's taking minutes?
Taking minutes so if everybody can bring their proposals to me after they're done. Thank you.
Mic check. Can we get the next proposal?
Human
Human rights. Hello. My name is Stuart. I'm part of Human Rights. We had 5 things that we wanted to talk about. But we came up with the most important. We demand representatives of the state of Florida oppose the passing of the National Defense Authorization Act, also known as HR 1540 or 1031. We feel this way because it creates undue fear to exercise our right to free speech, eliminates our constitutional right to do process, and restricts our freedom of mobility. We demand the protection of these rights. And that's it.
Can I get a temperature check?
Yes!
Does anybody want to get on stack with any serious dissent or amendments?
Okay.
Okay, can we come to consensus?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Mic check. The next proposal is for the homeless. Can you please? Okay. Because we see the use of the word homeless as inherent to the negative stigma attached to those that it attempts to describe as the language as the fundamental building blocks of any problem solution process,
Any problem solution process.
we, the People's Convention of Florida,
We, the People's Convention of Florida,
choose to adopt
choose to adopt
the more descriptively accurate
the more descriptively accurate
terminology
terminology
of houseless people
houseless people
when addressing this issue.
when addressing this issue.
Secretary Chet?
There's one more sentence
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
in case. And we demand the state of Florida
The state of Florida
reciprocate.
reciprocate.
Temperature check?
Is there any dissent
Is there any dissent
or friendly amendments?
or friendly amendments?
Clarifying question.
You want stack?
I want to be on set.
Dissent or amendment?
Is that it?
Think we can go ahead with Shelby?
Okay. So, wait, are you doing mic check?
Okay.
Checks?
Okay. So, what you are doing
So what you're doing
is changing the term
changing the term
from homeless
from homeless
to houseless.
to houseless.
To answer the question,
Answer the question.
it is changing
It is changing
to houseless people.
to houseless people.
So we call them homeless people.
No, we call it homeless. Just the homeless.
What if you have a different...
Go for an amendment, sister.
Okay, so...
Friendly amendments are fine.
Yeah, I'd like to offer a friendly
We have Stephanie with the proposed amendment. We have Stephanie with the proposed amendment.
I believe in Tampa,
I believe in Tampa.
and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong,
And you
Tampa,
guys can correct me
If I'm wrong,
Tampa people?
but I believe
we
we were asked
asked
to
call them
outdoor citizens.
outdoor citizens.
We have Shelby.
Shelby?
I have a friendly amendment
The amendment
for a different term.
for a different term.
How about
About
displaced people?
displaced people.
No, I don't think that has offense to it. Well, you're not. I don't.
Can I ask that the stackers
Staffers
alternate?
alternate.
Chuck.
Like to offer a friendly amendment,
Friendly amendment.
change the end of the language
Change the end of the language.
to and the bill or the
In the proposal.
proposal to say, instead of we ask them to reciprocate,
Yes, to reciprocate.
because that has a lot of different meanings it could be. That has a lot of different
Means it could be.
Instead to say,
Let's say,
we ask them to adopt this terminology as well.
yes, them to adopt this terminology as well.
Just a point of process on specific word changes that don't really change the meaning. Short sentences. Sorry.
Specific. I know what you were trying to say, so if we have a problem with the word,
Have a
problem with the word,
but not the moral
not the moral,
presented,
presented.
this is for further
this is for further
discussion later.
discussion later.
Christian.
Sorry.
I think, at least from what I know, the proper way to address people with conditions is you use person-first language. You put the person before the condition. That way the focus is on the person, not the condition. Instead of disabled people or homeless people, I think we should use the terms people with disabilities or people without homes. So that's my personal opinion. I'm not going to block anything, but I think we should adhere to the principle of person-first language.
Next is Marlon.
Yeah, Marlon.
I thought I would not speak today, but I'm not going to block this, but I do think this is a really, really, really bad idea. And the reason is for two reasons. One, if somebody came up to me, I might want to be called African American, somebody else might want to be called black. That should be left up to the person. The correct thing to do would be like to ask them what they prefer to be called. And it kind of makes me think that we are privileged enough that we get to decide what the terms for people are. This is ethically just wrong. I don't know what else to say about it.
Next is Elena.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Just as a thought. Sorry, I like to use my own voice. Yeah, it's I guess point of information. I believe that there are people who choose to be homeless. There are people in other countries. I know in India, people live without materials. They live without homes, and it's for spiritual reasons. It's choice. Not everybody has a choice when it comes to homelessness. But I guess it's my understanding that it's about like being all inclusive, using the term houseless people. Homeless sounds, like you don't have community, that you don't have people who love you, you don't have family. And when you're houseless, that's just a material possession. You just have something to cover your head with. So that's just kind of what is my understanding from what I've heard. I support it.
Carl?
I would just like to amend it to propose a friendly amendment to act. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Horizontal and close. Horizontal and close to your mouth.
Okay. I would just like to propose a friendly amendment that instead of it being called houseless people, maybe residentially challenged might be better. I am ex-homeless myself, and I can understand the use of the amendment because it takes away the stereotype that is associated with the people too. And I think all of us should consider the fact that there is a stereotype everyone calls a person homeless.
Okay, we have John.
I'm John, Fort Lauderdale. I'm in support of keeping it the way it is. As somebody spoke a moment ago, though a person does not have a house to live in, they still have a place that they may go home, such as with their family that may be somewhere else. There may be conditions that they cannot go there. The one thing that I know from talking to houseless persons is that I have been told by many that the thing that would be most important to them is that when a person on the street looks at them, they wishes they would see them. And I think the reason this happens is that such a stigma has become of the term homeless. And the idea of this change is to rehumanize the condition. And I don't know if this is the most perfect word, for all of you. And I don't know at what point the most perfect word could fit anybody, you know, so anyway, that's my point.
Can we try and keep comments?
Can we try and keep comments?
To be either amendments or serious dissent.
Valerie's next.
I have both serious dissent and an amendment to this. First of all, I agree with Marlon when he said it's not for us to decide what to call people. People should decide how they are labeled. We don't choose labels for others. I don't think that that's fair. Also, I don't think that a decision about language is worthy of our time here. We have so many other important proposals to get here. Deciding what to call someone, when it's not even our place to decide, it is not worthy of our time as a proposal, honestly. I think that maybe a proposal saying that we want to fight for more rights for the homeless and then go on as to what that might be is a good one, but choosing the language I don't think is something that we should discuss here. That's something we can discuss a later time. And again, it's not for us to decide.
So as facilitator, I'm hearing a lot of dissent. I'd like to give the original proposer a chance to respond. And then I think we will not come to consensus at this point. Right, I'm saying I'm seeing a lot of dissent and it doesn't seem like we're coming to consensus.
It's a small word you're complaining about here.
Okay, I'll use this mic. To respond quickly to her point about language and not being important. The idea here is that language is fundamental to the way that we think about issues, okay? And if we're gonna make correct decisions about issues, we have to start thinking about these things correctly first. It's fundamental, okay? And I also want to respond to Marlon, because I think he has a really good point. Have you guys ever heard of a book called The Invisible Man? Yes. Okay, this book was written like in the 40s, 50s, something like this. It's about a black man, okay? And about his fight in life, and about how no matter what all the great things he did, at the end of the day, when he was walking down the street, he was still the invisible man. Nobody paid attention to him, nobody cared about him, okay? Now, I noticed whenever Marlon said, I don't care if someone calls me black or if they call me African American, he didn't include the word nigger. My contention is that the word homeless is the new word nigger. In our society, the word homeless, when you say someone's homeless, this is the new bottom of the caste system, okay? I'm sorry if I offended anybody by using that word, but it was hard for me to not notice that he wasn't saying that was okay to call him that. He didn't say that. So, okay.
Point of information, he didn't say that. He actually said that it should be up to the individual to call themselves what he didn't say that. So point of information.
Thank you, Edwin.
I don't think that using the N-word is acceptable in this General Assembly. Also, we're at time. Do people want to move to extend this time? Can I get a temperature check on going forward with this proposal? Is that better? Can I get a temperature check to see if we could come to consensus? I'm seeing a lot of dissent, so it seems to me we're out of time and we're not coming to consensus. Are people okay with moving on? I saw some dissent for moving on. Most people wanted to move on, acknowledging stand-asides. What is the next?
Education.
Education? Education.
Okay. In education, the recognition is as follows. The education crisis exists not because of lack of quality personnel, teachers namely, but because of lack of funding. And so the first proposal follows. We demand public funding for education shall be increased. Well, let me give some preface. Florida is almost dead last in public spending on education. I think we're like 46, maybe 47, and next year I can't wait to see where we land. So, that being said, we demand that public funding for education shall be increased to the national per capita average. This shall be funded by reducing corporate... shall I start over? We demand that public funding for education shall be increased to the national per capita average. This shall be funded by reducing corporate tax exemptions, expanding the corporate income tax base, and eradicating tax loopholes.
Can I get a temperature check on that? Please keep your fingers up so that I can see everyone. I'm seeing a lot of support. Does anybody want to get on stack for serious dissent or for a friendly amendment?
Tim. Stand up, Tim.
Use the word exemption.
Use the word exemption.
You want to increase exemptions for corporations. That's not what you meant.
I can reread this. Reducing corporate tax exemptions.
Reducing corporate tax exemptions and expanding the corporate income tax base.
Do we have anyone else on stack?
I know.
In terms of an amendment to that, perhaps creating a progressive income tax in the state of Florida to help fund public education more, and not just raising it to the national per capita average, possibly higher, like as much as possible. In terms of funding for public education, perhaps not just raising it to the national per capita average, but much higher, and as well the creation of a progressive income tax in the state of Florida to help fund public education.
Okay, to that, I feel that right now the issue is there is a supposed lack of funding to public education. It's not that the revenue isn't there. It's that the revenue is not being collected. If we simply collected all of the taxes owed to the state of Florida, we could pay this. We do not have to increase a tax necessarily to pay for education. The revenue is there, it's just not being collected. And so I feel that, but I also feel like maybe it's not necessary, and we shouldn't build a solution and leave a problem in place. Regardless of whether we spend it on education, we need to reduce these exemptions for these corporations to pay their taxes in the state of Florida, which they largely don't. As far as increasing past the national average, this was a target to set, and if you propose something higher, then give me a concrete proposal. And that's kind of why we picked national average, because it would be considerably higher than spending now. But it's something that's tangible, and it's something that's achievable, and it's not something that we're picking arbitrarily high.
All right, we have Val.
I like the proposal. I just wanted to add a friendly amendment, I guess. Something that I've heard done, I know they do it in Pinellas County, they call it pennies for Pinellas, which is a way of increasing revenue that is not so much based on taxes that you just pay into the government. Because a lot of people have issue with paying taxes that they don't know what they're spent for, or they didn't spend the money for. They basically add 1 penny tax to every sales transaction, and that money goes to funding public education in the state of Florida. Over the big term, it will be a lot of money, but to the individual, it is not a lot of money. So that's just an idea. We can get consensus on that or not. So.
Is anyone else on stack?
We have Ariel. Can I respond real quickly?
You gotta get on stack.
This would be a friendly amendment in a way. Rick Scott just put out a budget saying he's going to put $1 million into education.
Oh, $1 billion. Oh, I'm sorry, but where's he gonna get it from? If we propose something like this, that education's out of money, we might be falling into a trap. So somewhere in this, we have to expose that fraud.
And another point of information on the budget, $67 million of that went to FCAT. 67 million.
67 million of that went to standardized testing.
No, FCAT.
FCAT. That's standard.
No. FCAT is separate. Standardized.
There's more standardized testing.
Okay. Well, it's going into it's going to the education that we don't need, and that's troublesome. He also did this right after he was in Immokalee, Florida, teaching class. And Immokalee, Florida is in Collier County, one of the richest counties in Florida. So he needs to be exposed on this. I know it was a little off topic, but that might be a honey trap if we're saying we're broke and we're asking for money and there's $1 billion being spent of our taxpayer money. I just wanted to say that about education because I felt passionate about something.
Christian?
Just to respond to Valerie's, I'm from Pinellas County, and I think the pennies for Pinellas is great. But I'd rather tax the corporations than sales tax, and it's we're only doing pennies for Pinellas because the state's not doing what they're supposed to do in funding it. So I'd rather go with the corporate reducing corporate exemptions.
As I understand it, just speaking to the $1 billion funding for education, Rick Scott and the Florida legislature reduced funding by 1.35 recently, and now want to make it look like they're putting $1 more billion back in, when in fact it's less than they took out a year or two ago. So that just speaks to the increase. It's not an increase, it's less than they already took out.
So again, to reiterate, the issue is not that, well, I guess my perspective on this is that the citizens should not be expected to continue to pay more for something that the state's already supposed to be paying for and already has the money to pay for, but instead of paying for it, is giving it away to incredibly wealthy people, increasingly more so by the week as session passes. So the suggestion, and maybe I'll just read it again. We demand public funding for education shall be increased to at least the national per capita average. This shall be funded by reducing corporate tax exemptions, expanding the corporate income tax base, and eradicating tax loopholes.
We come to consensus.
So as facilitator, I heard a couple amendments that I want to do individually, if that's okay. Somebody wanted to include language about progressive income tax in this proposal. How do people feel about that? Sorry, mic check. Mic check. There's a proposal. There's a proposal. To add language. About a progressive income tax.
About a progressive income tax.
To this proposal.
To this proposal.
How do people feel?
How do people feel?
Okay, I'm seeing mostly dissent on that. I also heard a proposal.
To
collect government revenue. Specifically designated. For education. How do people feel about that?
How do people feel about that?
Can I see everyone?